best in all styles, forms, without getting into the academic question of the definitions of realism, etc., and so forth. Because if I was going to create the body of work that was necessary for your generation, the younger people generation, then it was incumbent upon me to both be eclectic, to be accepting, to discipline myself and educate myself to a taste which would see what was good in all styles, in all forms, points of view, and etc. And it's because of that that the 25 years of the Negro Ensemble Company, the concentration was on basically new works. And the great wide variety of works that range from the poetic realism to the experimental to the epic Brechtian, etc., etc. Anyone who read my work knows that I'm not a writer who's interested as a writer too much in naturalism or realism. I'm a satirist and a Brechtian in terms of style and form. However, I have directed the classic, the River Nigers, etc., etc., and so forth, the Joe Walkers, the Leslie Lees, and etc. Now, the tendency in relation to the public is that those plays that became greatly successful, the soldiers' plays, the Ceremony of the Dark Old Men, that there is a perception by black theater that that's basically the main, the main type of works that we've done in that sense. That's not true. You take the body of work that NEC has created, not the works that became successful, but the whole broad, spectrum of works, and you find that that is not, that the domestic realism is almost in a minority. Now, in being a director, and I didn't want to be a director. I mean, I didn't plan to be a director. It's the fact that I suddenly had to select plays and create, programs of seasonal programs. And the first season, I had selected 4 works, and finally, Daddy Goodness, the last work by the late great Richard Wright, play that he had not finished before he died, that I had no one wanted to do it. And finally, since I selected it, and I looked and thought about my reasons for selecting it and realized that I had saw in it something that nobody else saw, and it was up to me to realize it. So I had to take the plunge. And therefore, I became a director through necessity. And then it was on-the-job training, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing about my relationship with writers is I bring my writers' knowledge, sensibility, analytical faculties to the work, perceiving their attention, and also maybe pointing out to them their unconscious intentions. It is not the duty of a director merely to accept what the writer even consciously says he or she is doing, because the process of creation, there's an unconscious element that is involved. And very often they think I have written this play about black liberation. And I say, that's not what you have. You have something else that's better. Because now that you can think about it, you come up with what what we know consciously we need to say. And then, but yet, what motivated us and what inspired us and what took over is putting things together, situations and people, and suddenly the result is not what the person thought of only in their conscious mind. It is the director's function to not only see and try to realize the intention there, but also to see whether there's something else there in addition to what the author thinks, or something even which contradicts what the author thinks he or she has. This function is basically, this is how I functioned throughout the years in dealing with the various writers, wherever they were coming from. Now, before I turn it the floor over to you all. I do not like, I don't like when I'm up here and you are there to let it wind up just being, you know, nice lecture type of thing, and it's all nice. The marriage, see, we can talk about the marriage all we want. I want, there is a divorce factor.
I'm with Douglas Turner Ward, the artistic director of the Negro Ensemble Company. Mr. Ward has given us a body of work which is absolutely tremendous. It is left on definitely into the 21st century, and I just would like to thank you, Mr. Ward, for taking some time out right now. You have done theater that ranges from realism, domestic realism, which is how our black theater is perceived usually, to experimental, to epic, and I just wanted you to tell us a few things about your own evolution and the evolution of your theater group.
Well, my own evolution was essentially my ambition to be a writer, and that's the thing that got me involved in you know, in theater. And I came to the conclusion very early that I wanted to write out of my own experience, and that I needed to do it with other blacks, but almost more important, I needed black people in the audience as witnesses. I mean, I was not interested to write for a majority public that was not of my own people. So that sort of led me eventually to the point where I did become a writer, and I did write 2 one-act plays that became successful off-Broadway at the time in 1965, and that gave me the opportunity to write an article that appeared in the New York Times Sunday section, which asked a question, American theaters for whites only? Mm-hmm. And then in that article, I really basically called for the creation of an autonomous, independent black theater run by, for, with, about, and addressed to other blacks.
What is your analysis of where we are now? Because you have always been committed to progressive, what is progressive politically and well, affecting radical. A whole lot of people. Radical. Right, yes, yes, definitely radical.
Radical, really. Don't be scared to say it.
All right, radical, yes, right. Definitely known as that in many circles for your writings and your analysis of the situation. So what I wanted you to do is like give us your analysis of this conference, and clear away for us some of what we may idealistically think is going to happen, and tell us what you perceive as can really happen realistically out of this conference.
This conference is very important in the sense that the gathering together of both the veterans of black theater and also the younger generation that's come to the conference to participate in its workshops and panels. It just confirms the fact that we you know, that we still strutting, but at the same time we are at a point of great danger, in the sense that what was created previously that we know as black theater, African American theater, whatever you want to call it now, is in jeopardy. And finally, what I call a sort of superstar contingency, the superstar contingent rather, the Oprah Winfrey's and the Bill Cosby's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They must now make a breakthrough and set a precedent that they will begin to give significant money to their own field.
Is there anyone on the panel that would like to make a comment?
Okay, yeah, let me try it up here. I'm just curious, you know, dealing with health from the standpoint of the writers, you know, is it possible, do you think, that the writers can try and decode by the healing process through their work? that, you know, like what you try and do is to try and get some kind of redemption happening, you know, in your work, which, like, when you uplift the whole world, the nation of yourself, the act is also, you know.
Edgar White, poet, playwright, has come to us again because for him, as for several others, this may well be a reunion of the family getting back together again. Edgar, you've been away?
Yes, I've been away for a minute. I've been in England, and yeah, it's nice coming back. Nice meeting the folks.
What do you hope will come out of this conference?
Well, there seems to be a lot of energy moving, you know, particularly spiritual energy that I haven't seen the like of since the 60s, you know. It's good. It's good.
This is like a renaissance for us then, something, the energies that were present in the 60s you find will be with us in the 90s into the 21st century?
Yes, I find that. I find that a lot of the participants, for example, people like Barbara Antier, who, you know, I think is like one of the founders of like, black theater in the city. When I started around 18, when I was about 18 years old, up in Harlem with the black theater that was happening there. At that point, it was Leroy Jones, yeah, Imamu, and yeah, I find that everyone who was there, the survivors, have come back as spiritual, you know, fathers and elders, you know, and it's a good feeling. I particularly liked what I saw today because I feel like at this point we have our history before us, you know. There was a time when you were very strange, you know, when you talked that sort of thing, but now what I found is that that it's going very much into the spiritual. It's no longer just a one-dimensional thing of you know, theater practitioners, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm very glad to be here at NYU. This is also a place that I started out. This was the first school that I went to, you know, NYU. So yeah.
Has NYU always been open to what its African American students wanted to do?
No, I wouldn't say that. But there was always space. There was always space here. The fact of the location, the fact that it's so close to the Lower East Side, particularly, its energy base. When I started, the first plays that I did down here were over at the Public Theater, which is, you know, just around the corner. Yeah.
And I can say that the National Black Theater has just built its $10 million revenue-generating theater arts complex, and it is an incredible offering, and it has artwork from new sacred artists from Nigeria, and it's to make black theater immortal as a conversation in the world. So people get clear that in the 60s, when we were struggling and efforting to bring forth the distinction black theater, because before that there were no distinctions called black theater, that today we're alive and living and well, that we intend to continue to liberate our people, that we intend to continue to maintain and perpetuate the richness and beauty inherent in the form and feeling of black lifestyle. And bottom line, our goal is to keep soul alive. Well, actually, you know, National Black Theater had a fire in 1983, and our whole building was destroyed. And out of the ashes came this brand new $10 million facility. We have 5 full-time programs. They never stopped, even during the fire, because we own the whole block. And to know that there is nothing that we cannot do when we work together as a team, so that there is no such thing as can't, there is no such thing as impossible, that we have built a $10 million facility from nothing, because our commitment to the arts, to culture, to re-education, to an alternative learning environment, to the immortality of people of African descent is what propels us, is what drives us. So what I would like people to know is that when they tap into that overwhelming source called soul, called spirit, called aliveness, that they too will know that there is nothing that is impossible on the planet.
It would be nice to know how many people here are actual producers or directors of theaters in the room, okay? All right, and then how many people are actors or artists within theater structures? Okay, and how many people are administrators? Okay. Is there a grouping that I didn't mention?
Independent producers.
Independent, well, I mean producers,
Which is what
meaning
you are?
independent, yeah, sure, that means the producer side, so it's a nice mix.
Student producers.
Students, okay, it's Howard University is sitting here in the front row, and she just wanted to be sure that y'all were gonna say some of the things she needed to hear.
I'm a funder.
Aha, okay, that'll be helpful.
Everybody wants to know who you are.
I'm the director of the theater program at the National Endowment for the Arts.
Oh, I didn't know you were coming.
We have fellowships for solo performing artists, storytellers. With Fran Cuman, I saw her here from TCG. We have a Director of Designers Fellowship Program. We're one of the few places where individual artists can still come in to get support. In addition to which and it's one of the areas we've not cut back, we have a new category for collaborations so that we can fund partnerships, collaborations between playwrights and directors, designers and directors, designers and playwrights, whatever that mixture is. And it's special projects for individuals, for collaborations, because the preservation of theater has got to be in the new work. It's got to be in the supporting the development of the playwright to get the work done.
That funding, is it for the artist, or is it for the artist and project, or for the project?
It's for the artists. It's for the artists. We look at the projects, we look at the history, but it really is to buy time. We're still buying time. Our single largest category is professional theater companies, and in order for us to deal with the cutbacks, our program has gone from $9 million to $7 million. To deal with the cutbacks, our category has voluntarily taken a percent off the top of the funds and set it aside to bring in new companies.
Good.
So it means that everybody, from the Guthrie all the way down to the smallest company, that everybody's bearing the burden. But last year we brought 26 new companies on. It also means that the criteria, the competitiveness though, people are being dropped. They're not as reluctant as we used to be to drop people from the roster. So it is highly competitive. However, I think it's the one category that will remain protected in that program because it's the place where the majority of the work gets done. And contrary to popular belief, professional theater companies, you don't have to be equity, you don't have to be big, you don't have to have a huge board, you don't have to have a facility. We fund the work. If the work is good, you stand a shot. We had one company that applied the first time last year, and they were brought on the roster. Rarely happens. It was a black company. It was really, really pleased. They are 20 years old. They'd never applied before. First time, and they made it.
I also want to mention that in this room, and this is why I'm going to get in trouble because I don't forget the other 5 people that I should have mentioned, but I'm very pleased that Larry Hamlin, I think Larry, I see back there next to you.
Well, my name is Larry Leon Hamlin. I am the producer and artistic director of the National Black Theater Festival. I understand that I'm here to receive an award for my contributions to black theater over the years. As far as the posture of black theater in America and where it's headed, I would say I'm very optimistic, only because there are a great deal of activity that is geared to illuminate the importance of African American theater. However, I would say that before 1989, I was rather pessimistic, but since that time, we've had events such as the National Black Theater Festival, and now, of course, we have this event, and it just goes to show that there's a great deal of activity that is geared toward making sure that we have the continuity of black theater in America that will guarantee us that African American theater will be around for future generations, for many generations to come.
Just one practical consideration. I mean, just the rules of equity are that you can't raise that. You know, I mean, because I had a big fight where I was.
It needs to be addressed because equity has not helped us one damn bit, and we need to just deal with them because they don't give us any audience development. They don't do very much for us at all, and yet still every time we get ready to do something, there they are right in the way. So that's something that needs to be done.
And clarification, those of you in the room and for the press, the point that she's making to document our work in video, and the point that playwright Ed Shockley and Mickey Grant are opening up is that the rules of Actors Equity Association and AFTER make it very difficult, almost impossible for us as soon as we start to go in. We originally at the workshop started to develop videos of the original reading. Immediately, if you have 10 actors who are planning a reading and 9 say wonderful, one actor says no, I won't sign that release, I have to call equity, I'm going to pull out my book on you, you cannot do it. That means the monkey wrench is thrown into the entire documentation. It is a major problem that she's raising. We've been fighting this war, Abiola, but it's a major point.
I had this
Nikki.
experience just
Yes.
about a year ago when we had this workshop and working on a new piece, and I had sort of come into the piece and was contributing a score. At the end of it, I just wanted to take what had been done, just for me.
Right.
For me to work on and me
Yeah.
to check out. And no, just we don't do it.
And the rule on that is
it's
that
heartbreaking. I said, well, I have
they wouldn't even let
nothing.
you take it for your
Just,
own
I said,
homework.
Just for me,
Right,
for my
right.
homework.
But I think the plan.
This was Maya Angelou's new play.
And Still I Rise.
Not so new. This is the rewrite for several
Yeah.
years, but it's new to us.
Right.
So what's the title of the piece?
And Still I Rise.
And Still I Rise.
Now I reviewed And Still I Rise
Right.
from Oakland Ensemble Theater.
That's where it goes back
In
to.
the 1970s, right? I did a
1970s.
review in the Black Scholar magazine.
Right.
But the point is, she brought in Clifton Davis and Jeanette Dubose.
Right.
The rest of the people were auditioned. They were very, very good. You know, we have good people. If you see Pomoja, you won't. Not one of the names in Pomoja would be a name you know, but they're all brilliant. You know, I mean, in other words, we got 3 or 4, right, maybe 8 deep, of actors and actresses out there. You know, people who sing and that. So what she did was she brought those in. The rest of the people, she auditioned. She went around and she auditioned and got the cast together. That made it a bit easier because there weren't a lot of name brand people, right? And that's the way we've operated over the years, is just brought people up. And of course, once they take the step, off into, the professional arena, then that's different. But I mean, that's an advantage. I mean, that's one way to at least get a record of it. I learned this from Catherine
You just
Dunham.
want a record.
With home companies, homegrown companies.
It's very important. Ed Shockley.
Working in Seattle on a show, I was in Philadelphia, I simply needed the tape to see it in order to rewrite it because I couldn't get to Seattle.
Right.
It was impossible, but I'm not an actor, but for the actor's side, actors are exploited terribly. In Seattle, the same series of actors, about 4 of them had won a suit against someone who had videotaped supposedly some sort of in-house thing, and then had sold that same tape to television.
Right.
So we don't want to turn in actors against writers because we're all being exploited in the same situation. And equity really isn't the bad guys; it's that they're caught in the middle as well. They're fighting producers who are unscrupulous on behalf of actors.
That's right.
So the circumstance is the problem.
Yeah, the capitalism is the problem.
Right, because if the actor agrees to let you tape, and there are 10 actors, and they wind up on cable somewhere, and I know a piece of mine was shown in Tokyo television, and I didn't know anything about it.
Exactly.
Okay?
And the
So
suits
we
you never get your
understand
money
that,
anyway.
right? That is a problem that we have to deal with, right? But at the same time, but Abiola's point is, if we not only we must document, but if we're not showing up and putting these images before, especially our young hip-hop set, they don't recognize us because they're television babies.
Yeah.
They don't see us on that tube, we don't exist. So they're not just we documenting it, we don't have validation if we're not showing up in the major media. Well, I didn't see you on Oprah, I didn't see you in the major media. It's a major problem. So we do have to address this problem of how to get the material, same time, protect the art.
I'm here with Mr. Lofton Mitchell, who has documented black theater, shown African Americans in various aspects of the performing arts, and we are very grateful to him for that. What I would like to ask you, Mr. Mitchell, is when you were let's not say young, because you are very youthful, okay? You are very, very youthful. But as a very young person growing up, what inspired you to take note of theater and the arts?
Oh, well, I was born in Harlem, and my family lived on 131st Street. And we used to go to one of 4 theaters that were operating in those days, where there were black productions, black artists, and the contrast with the movies happened to be one devil of a contrast, because the movies had stereotyped us into Yazza boss or whatever, and these were not real people. The people around me were literate, dignified. They were West Indian, Jewish, Southern black, Northern black, and they ran through a bunch of professions. For example, the eminent Dr. Pettione lived next door to me, Charles Augustin Pettione. He was from the West Indies. His daughter Muriel, by the way, is still practicing medicine. And this is the kind of people that we knew. Well, you walked out in the street and you could meet them and talk with them. And the movies did not represent us. I never dreamed that the day would come when along would come a bunch of black filmmakers who were doing one whale of a job. But I gravitated towards the theater. At least we could control our scripts.
Before you can address power, you have to address perception. Because we didn't have a dime in the 60s. We didn't have a cent. But we changed the perception of the entire nation. The perception is what changed it. The money came after. I'm saying we cannot stop because we don't have any money. We have to push for the things that we want changed.
But I thought one of the things might do is what you were talking about is the power. And that is that we're all consumers. And if we could just get the network going with 1,000 names and addresses so that when you have a problem, you pick up the phone, you make one phone call, we're writing to those producers of the shows. And if we get a mass writing in onslaught, I mean, what is happening to Phyllis Stickney? We don't like it. Then somebody would take notice, and that was the power. So you make one phone call, and we've got like what the letters are, the petitions going. We're sending it out to 100,000 black women all over the United States who are sending in. Even if we get 2,000 onslaught in a couple of days, they'll bring it back.
Abiola Sinclair is the most consistent writer that I know of with the Amsterdam News, documenting African American works throughout the city She's very active with many groups, giving her support, her time, her talent, and the accepting challenges that we have to meet, African American artists on all levels. She also is working very closely with the Frank Silvera's Writers Workshop. I would like to greet Abiola Sinclair and ask her a few questions, because this conference is now being called the Renaissance 3. I was just speaking with a gentleman who is a writer, Mr. Redmond, and he says this is the Renaissance 3, and the difference between this Renaissance and the previous Renaissances of African American works is that at this conference we have the presence of a lot of women.
We had on the panel Phyllis Yvonne Stickney, Viney Burroughs, Romneil, Lawrence Holder, and Joan Green, and several other people, I think Victoria Ward. And the topic was sexism in the theater.
I feel that Harlem is where I got my start. And I feel that I owe something back to the community. And that is one of the reasons that I have operated a theater since 1950 in the Harlem community. I founded the Hadley Players in 1979. But before that, I also had theater groups. And I have the young people, and just to see them go forth, we didn't have television in those days, but today we have television. And they are learning, and if I could just see one person grow, I'm very satisfied. I came up with the American Negro Theater back in the early 40s. And at that time, I never dreamed of being an actress because I stammered. And I only went into the American Negro Theater to correct my speech. Once I was there, I was told that I couldn't just take the speech course, that I would have to take the full course. And the full course consisted of acting, speech, body movement, toilet cleaning, cleaning flats, putting up lights, and etc., stage dressing. And so I took the full course. And my teachers urged me later on, after 1 year, that I should audition for acting. And of course, I'm still frightened at the thought of going on stage.
I think that the conference that took place here in New York, Black Theater in America Conference, was probably New York's cry out and a cry inward to say that we are still here, that we still have the place where careers are made and craft is honed and it's real. I think what was accomplished this weekend is that we brought people to the realization that maybe just inside were saying it to themselves, that we need to regroup, we need to reclaim, we need to reestablish ourselves in the industry and in the world.
A few things I just want to say first. I'm always so pleased to see Gertrude Jeanette. Hi. Okay. And